The Japanese soldier is 3 feet away when Lieutenant Morrison's rifle jams. You can see the bayonet coming, 20 inches of steel catching the jungle light. And there's no time to clear the bolt. Morrison's hand drops to his hip. The Colt 45 comes up. One shot. The sound is different from everything else on Guadalcanal that morning. Deeper, final, like a door slamming shut on the world. The soldier doesn't fly backward like in the movies. He just stops. Everything in him stops at once. Morrison will remember 2 things about that moment for the rest of his life. How close the man's breath smelled like fish and rice, and how the 45 felt alive in his hand, like it knew what to do even when he didn't. Second Lieutenant James Morrison grew up in Bakersfield, California, where his father ran a hardware store and taught him to shoot tin cans off fence posts with an old Colt revolver. He was 23 years old when he landed on Guadalcanal with the 1st Marine Division in August 1942, and he'd been carrying the M1911 into the 145 automatic for exactly 6 weeks. It felt heavy on his hip, 2.5 pounds of blued steel that pulled his gun belt down on the right side. "You ever fire that thing, Lieutenant?" Corporal Eddie Bronson asked him on the transport ship over. Bronson was from Pittsburgh, built like a fire hydrant, with a face that looked older than his 19 years. "Qualification range," Morrison said. "Put 30 rounds through it." Bronson grinned without humor. "That ain't the same, sir. That ain't even close." The M1911A1 wasn't supposed to be a primary weapon. Infantry officers carried the M1 Garand rifle like everyone else, with the 45 as backup. Something for close quarters, for when everything went to hell and you needed to make very bad things stop happening very quickly. The pistol fired a 45 ACP cartridge, a stubby round that looked almost comical next to the long, elegant .30-06 rounds the Garand used. But there was nothing comical about what that fat bullet did when it hit flesh. The men talked about the 45 in the hold of the transport ship in those last days before landing. They talked about everything, really. The things men talk about when they're trying not to think about what's coming. But the 45 came up more than Morrison expected. "My old man carried one in France," said Private First Class Tommy Reeves, a farm kid from Nebraska with white blonde hair already bleaching lighter in the Pacific sun. "Said it saved his life in a trench at Below Wood. German came around a corner and Daddy's Springfield was empty. One shot with the 45 and that was that." "Heard the Japs don't like it," another Marine offered. "Heard it scares them." "Everything scares them until it doesn't," Bronson said. "Then they come at you anyway." Guadalcanal in August was heat and humidity that made you feel like you were breathing through a wet towel. The jungle pressed in from every direction, thick vegetation that could hide a man 2 feet away. Morrison learned quickly that combat in the Pacific wasn't like anything they'd trained for stateside. The Japanese didn't fight like Europeans. They infiltrated at night, came in close, used the jungle like it was part of their body. You'd be eating cold rations, and suddenly there'd be movement in the shadows, and the distance between you and the enemy collapsed to nothing. The rifle was fine for distance, but in the jungle, distance was a luxury you rarely had. "Check your 45 before you rack out," Morrison told his platoon after the first week. He'd started doing it himself every night, dropping the magazine, checking the rounds, reinserting it, chambering one, dropping the mag again to top it off. 8 rounds total. 7 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Not much margin for error. "Japanese come in at night," Bronson said to the new replacements who arrived in September. "They're quiet, real quiet. Sometimes the first you know about it is when your foxhole buddy stops breathing next to you." The tension built through September. Skirmishes, probes, night attacks that left men dead in their sleeping holes. The Japanese were everywhere and nowhere, and the jungle kept their secrets. On October 7th, Intelligence reported heavy Japanese movement to the south. Lieutenant Colonel Fuller called a briefing. "They're coming," he said. "Don't know when, but it's soon. Stay sharp. Stay alive." Morrison cleaned his .45 that night, field stripping it by moonlight. The pieces came apart in his hands like a familiar puzzle. Slide barrel, recoil spring, frame. He wiped each part with an oiled cloth, checking for rust in the humidity. When he reassembled it, the pistol felt solid, purposeful. At 06:30 on October 8th, everything changed. The Japanese come through the jungle like ghosts, becoming solid. Morrison is checking the perimeter with Bronson when they hear it. Not the sound of movement, but the absence of jungle noise. The birds stop. The insects go quiet. That's when you know. "Contact south," someone shouts, and the word ripples down the line. Morrison's section is dug in along a ridgeline above the Matanikau River. The position is good. Clear field of fire down the slope, jungle at their backs for fallback. But the jungle is also where the enemy is, and at 6:45, the first Japanese soldiers emerge from the tree line 60 yards out. The Garands open up, the distinctive ping of empty clips ejecting. The Japanese keep coming. They're not charging wild. That's a Hollywood myth. They're advancing with purpose, using cover, firing as they move. Arisaka rifles crack, the sound higher and sharper than the American weapons. Morrison fires his Garand, the rifle bucking against his shoulder. He sees a Japanese soldier go down, then another. But there are more behind them, always more. The morning sun slants through the jungle canopy, and everything is green shadows and muzzle flashes. "They're flanking!" Corporal Jennings screams from the right. Morrison turns. A group of Japanese soldiers is working up the right side, using a ravine for cover. They're closer than the main group, 40 yards, 35. He swings his rifle around, fires twice. One man drops. His Garand's bolt locks back, empty. He drops behind cover to reload, fingers fumbling with the end-block clip. The clip won't seat properly. Humidity has swollen the wood stock just enough. He tries again. Nothing. "Lieutenant!" Bronson's voice, urgent. Morrison looks up. 3 Japanese soldiers have broken through on the right. They're sprinting now, bayonets fixed. The nearest one is maybe 20 yards away and closing fast. Morrison abandons the Garand, lets it fall on its sling. His hand drops to his hip. The M1911A1's grip feels different than it did at the range. Sweat slick, almost alive. He thumbs the safety off as he brings it up. No time for sight picture, no time for breathing technique, no time for any of the things they taught him. The nearest soldier is 15 feet away when Morrison fires. The .45 roars. The recoil is sharp but controllable, pushing straight back into his wrist. The Japanese soldier's chest erupts in red, and he goes down like someone cut his strings. Just drops. No drama. No flying backward. The kinetic energy of the 230-grain bullet moving at 830 feet per second doesn't throw people around. It punches through them and takes their will to live with it. Morrison swings left. The second soldier is 10 feet away, so close Morrison can see the man's eyes widen. He fires again. The bullet catches the soldier in the shoulder, spinning him. Morrison fires a third time. The man goes down. The third soldier stops his charge, raises his rifle. Morrison is faster. 2 shots, center mass. The soldier sits down hard in the volcanic soil, then tips over sideways. The entire engagement lasted maybe 4 seconds. Morrison's ears are ringing. The .45 is still pointed where the third soldier was standing. Smoke curls from the barrel. His hand is shaking now, adrenaline catching up with action. "Jesus Christ, Lieutenant," Bronson says, his voice distant through the ringing. Jesus Christ. The main attack falters. Other Marines have seen what happened, seen the .45 drop 3 men in close quarters. The Japanese soldiers in the ravine hesitate, and that hesitation is fatal. Marine rifle fire cuts them down. By 0730, it's over. The Japanese withdraw, leaving their dead in the volcanic ash and mud. Morrison looks at the .45 in his hand. 7 rounds fired, 1 left in the chamber. He'd hit 5 times out of 7 shots at distances between 4 and 15 feet, under fire, with men trying to kill him. The pistol had done exactly what it was designed to do in 1911. Stop determined men at close range, immediately and permanently. He ejects the magazine, tops it off from his belt, reinserts it. His hands are still shaking, but the motions are automatic now. Muscle memory taking over where thought fails. "You good, sir?" Bronson asks. Morrison nods because he doesn't trust his voice yet. Down the line, someone is crying. Someone else is laughing, the high, brittle sound of survival. The smell is overwhelming. Cordite and blood and shit. Because that's what happens when bullets tear through bodies. Morrison had known it intellectually. Now he knows it in a way he'll never unknow. The 3 Japanese soldiers lie where they fell. Morrison forces himself to look. The first man, the one he shot from 3 feet away, has a hole in his chest you could put your fist through. The .45's big, slow bullet doesn't make neat entrance wounds. It makes cavities, temporary wound channels that collapse tissue and break bone and destroy whatever is in the way. "They don't get back up," Bronson says quietly, standing beside him. "That's what my sergeant told me about the .45. You put a man down with it, he stays down." The corpsmen arrive within minutes. 3 Marines are wounded, 1 seriously, caught by Arisaka fire during the main attack. Doc Henderson works on him with the steady hands of someone who's done this before, packing the wound, setting up plasma. Morrison sits against a tree and realizes he can't stop looking at his hands. They're streaked with powder residue and dirt. He'd grabbed the .45 slide to check the chamber at some point, and it left a black smear across his palm. "You did good, Lieutenant," First Sergeant Carroll says, appearing beside him. Carroll is 34, ancient by Marine Corps standards, with a face like weathered leather. Clean kills, fast thinking. Morrison nods, but doesn't feel like he did anything good. He feels like he killed 3 men before breakfast and now has to figure out how to eat lunch. The bodies are searched for intelligence, papers, maps, anything useful. Morrison makes himself watch but doesn't participate. The dead men look young. One of them has a photograph in his pocket, a woman and 2 small children. Morrison looks away. "Found this on the first one," a sergeant says, holding up a small journal. "Can't read it, but intelligence will want it. By 1,000 hours, the dead have been tagged and removed. American casualties are evacuated to the field hospital. The position is reinforced. And the men who survived start processing what just happened in the ways that men do." Bronson won't stop talking. "I seen the lieutenant drop 3 Japs with 5 shots. 5 shots! Closest one was practically on top of him, and he didn't even flinch. Boom, 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 just like target practice." "Wasn't like target practice," Morrison says quietly. "I know, sir, I know. But Jesus." Private Reeves is silent. He's the one who talked about his father at Belleau Wood. He sits and cleans his rifle over and over, even though it's already clean. His hands shake slightly with each stroke of the bore brush. "Tommy," Morrison says. "You okay?" "Yes, sir." The kid's voice is thin. That's the first time I seen men die up close. I mean, I shot at them during the main attack, but I don't know if I hit anybody. But your guys, I saw them go down." "It's different," Morrison agrees. "It's different seeing it." The platoon settles into a strange post-combat routine. Some men sleep, exhaustion overcoming adrenaline. Others can't sleep, too wired. They eat cold rations and drink warm water from canteens, and try not to think too hard about the next time. Intelligence reports arrive by runner at 1400 hours. According to captured documents and prisoner interrogation from other sectors, the Japanese infantry manual specifically warns about American close-quarters weapons. The M1911 pistol is mentioned by name. Translated text describes it as the big pistol and notes its immediate stopping effect. Japanese soldiers are instructed to maintain distance from American officers and maintain formation discipline to prevent close-quarters engagement. They're scared of it, Carroll says, reading the report. Not scared enough to stop fighting, but scared enough to change tactics. Morrison thinks about the soldier who stopped his charge when Morrison brought the .45 up. That moment of hesitation. Maybe it was recognition. Maybe the man had seen what the pistol could do and decided dying from bayonet distance was better than dying from pistol distance. Or maybe he'd just seen 3 of his comrades drop in 4 seconds and made a rational calculation about his odds. What matters is they respect it, Carroll continues. They know an officer with a .45 who knows how to use it is dangerous and close. That hesitation might save your life someday. Morrison isn't sure how he feels about that. He doesn't feel dangerous. He feels like someone who killed 3 men and can still smell their blood drying in the Pacific heat. That night, he dreams about the first soldier, the one from 3 feet away. In the dream, Morrison can see the man's face clearly. The surprise, the fear, the understanding that comes a split second before death. He wakes up at 0300, sweat-soaked, and reaches instinctively for the .45 on his hip. It's still there. Loaded, ready, waiting for the next time. The Colt .45 automatic didn't win the Pacific War. The M1 Garand did that, along with naval artillery and air superiority and industrial capacity and 1,000 other factors. But in the green hell of jungle fighting, where combat compressed to knife-fighting distance and men died in the dark, the .45 became something more than a sidearm. It became an equalizer. The Japanese feared it not because of propaganda or mythology, but because of mathematics. A .45 ACP bullet weighs 230 grains and travels at subsonic velocity. It doesn't penetrate deeply. It wasn't designed to. It was designed in 1904 specifically to stop Moro warriors hopped up on drugs during the Philippine insurrection, men who would keep fighting with multiple rifle wounds. John Browning's solution was elegant. Make a bullet so large and slow that it transfers all its energy into the target instead of passing through. The temporary wound cavity it creates is devastating. Organs that aren't directly hit still fail from the hydrostatic shock. Japanese soldiers, typically smaller in stature than American troops and often suffering from malnutrition by mid-war, had no physical defense against that kind of energy transfer. A man hit center mass with a .45, went down, and stayed down. No second chances. No fighting through the pain. Just immediate, catastrophic system failure. The psychological effect compounded the physical reality. Japanese infantry tactics emphasized close-quarters combat, infiltration, and bayonet charges. The M1 Garand was devastating at range, but could be overwhelmed up close. The .45 removed that tactical advantage. An American officer, or NCO, with a .45 could stop a banzai charge dead, sometimes literally, at ranges where other weapons became liabilities. Morrison carried his .45 through Guadalcanal, then Cape Gloucester, then Peleliu. He fired it in anger 4 more times during the war. Each time, it performed exactly as designed. Each time, men died immediately. He killed 11 enemy soldiers with that pistol across 3 years of combat. He never learned their names, never saw their families, never knew what they thought in their final moments beyond what he could read in their eyes. He survived the war. Bronson didn't. Killed by a sniper on Peleliu, shot through the head while lighting a cigarette. Reeves made it home but hung himself in his father's barn in 1947. The war came home with them in ways that bullets never could. Morrison kept the .45. The Marine Corps let officers purchase their sidearms after the war, and he paid the $15 without hesitation. It sat in his closet in Bakersfield for 43 years, cleaned and oiled, but never fired. He died in 1988, and his son found it when cleaning out the house. Dad never talked about the war, his son said later, but he kept that gun in perfect condition. I asked him about it once when I was a teenager. He just said, "That gun saved my life more than once. It did what it was supposed to do." What the M1911A1 was supposed to do was stop men from killing other men. The cruel irony is that it did this by killing very efficiently. The Japanese soldiers who faced it weren't monsters. They were sons and brothers and fathers who believed they were serving their emperor and protecting their homeland. They died badly, in a jungle thousands of miles from home, because American industrial capacity built a better pistol. War is full of these ironies. The .45 automatic was meant to save lives by taking them. It gave American troops a fighting chance in close quarters by ensuring their enemies didn't get one. It became legendary not because it was perfect. It wasn't. It was heavy, carried limited ammunition, and required training to use effectively. But because when it mattered most, it worked. The 3 soldiers Morrison killed on October 8, 1942, were sons of mothers who never learned exactly how they died. The Japanese military simply listed them as killed in action on Guadalcanal. Their families received ashes that probably weren't theirs. The Imperial Japanese Army sent home ashes to every family, even when bodies couldn't be recovered. What endures is the truth that warfare, stripped to its essence, comes down to these moments. One man trying to kill another, the machinery of death reduced to 4 seconds of violence in a jungle clearing. The .45 didn't make that truth easier. It just made it faster. Morrison's pistol is in a museum now, displayed under glass with a placard that says M1911I1 Guadalcanal Campaign. Visitors look at it and see history. Veterans see something else, a tool that did exactly what was asked of it, no more, no less. It stopped determined men at close range. It gave the soldier carrying it a chance to go home. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be.